If you have your Bibles, go with me to Mark 6, okay? Mark 6. We're going to go verse 45 through 52. Verse 45 through 52. I'll give you like a couple seconds to get there. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and head across the lake to Bethesda. While he sent the people home, after telling everyone goodbye, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Late that night, the disciples were in their boat in the middle of the lake, and Jesus was alone on land. He saw that they were in serious trouble, rowing hard and struggling against the wind and waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, nothing good happens at 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on the water. He intended to go past them. Jesus is so gangster, honestly, it's crazy. But when they saw him walking on the water, they cried out in terror, thinking he was a ghost. He probably was like the Holy Ghost. Okay, that's corny. They were all terrified when they saw him. But Jesus spoke to them at once. Don't be afraid, he said. Take courage, I am here. Then he climbed into the boat, and the wind stopped, and they were totally amazed. For they still didn't understand the significance of the miracle of the loaves. Their hearts were too hard to take it in. Does anybody in here love fishing? Yes? We got some fishers of men? Okay, no. Gosh, I got to get off this corny lane. We got some actual fishermen? Like, do you guys like pond fish? Do you lake fish? A little bit of both. Anybody go out in the ocean? I do not. There's sharks there. I don't care if I'm on a boat. I've got to tell you something that happened to me recently that's hilarious. Can I tell you a story that's hilarious? Okay. And I told the student ministry this before. I need y'all to talk back to me. Okay, you can say something like, that's good, that's bad. If you say that, you know what I mean, probably not coming back, but you can say, preach it, white boy, like whatever you want to say, literally, okay? So stay in your lane, but talk back, okay? And so I'm going to ask again. Can I tell y'all something that happened to me recently that's hilarious? Okay, cool. I entered a fishing tournament with my brother-in-law. Why? Because I have competition issues. Everything in my life is a competition. If me and my wife are walking to the hotel room, I'm getting there first. If me and my daughter are playing Monopoly, I am dominating her, okay? It's not good. I'm working it out, okay? But I have competition issues. And my brother-in-law's, he's like, I just want to fish. We're already gonna waste money because you lose every bait you have. I don't wanna, I'm like, no, we're entering this fishing tournament. God's gonna move. You know what I mean? Like, that's just standing on faith. And it was a 4-day tournament, but I only paid for 3 days because, like, I don't fish that much, and I'm not taking a Sunday. I work at a church. I mean, like, I'm just gonna have a good time, hang out with my brother-in-law, and sleep a little bit. And so we go out there the day before, and we start practicing, and we caught nothing. And the next day, when the tournament started, we caught nothing. I was so upset that I began to look at rental cars in Lynchburg, okay, because we were at Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia, and I was gonna ask my brother-in-law to go drop me off so I could go be home with my wife and my kids, because what I'm not about to be is on a lake freezing, catching nothing, okay? And so Friday rolls around. Somebody say TGIF. It was about 11 o'clock. Okay, my brother-in-law had just caught a 3-pound fish. Somebody's like, why is this guy so intense about fishing? I'm really not. But I love hanging out with my brother-in-law. And he's got this Panoptics on the front of his boat, which is like crazy, but it means you can see all the fish underneath you. It's like wild. I can't believe technology is like that. And he's like, there's more down there. Throw it down there, let it sink to the bottom, reel it in kind of slow. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I feel the fish bite, okay? Anybody ever caught a catfish? They feel like a literal cinder block, okay? When I set the hook, I got upset because this tournament was for bass, not for catfish. And I'm like, I can't even catch the right fish, okay? I set the hook, it comes up, it gives us a side profile, and I quickly realize it's a bass, okay? That's when I begin to shake and stuff because I'm like, I'm gonna lose it. I don't do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm reeling it in as fast as I can, right? He's like, stop. I'm like, I'm conflicted, right? We get it in the boat. The scale says 8 pounds, 3 ounces. I'm like, that's kind of good, right? He's like, bro, people will never catch a fish that big in their life. And I'm like, I'm just happy to be here, right? The marina that we had to go weigh the fish in at was 45 minutes away, okay? We get down there, okay? And this tournament is this cool tournament. Like, if you catch the biggest fish in the tournament, you get to win a boat. I drive a Prius. I entered the tournament to have a good time. You know what I mean? Go all the way down to the marina. They weighed in at 7.82 ounces. I looked at first place on the leaderboard. My name came up. I said, I don't even fish. What is happening? They're like, sir, come with me. I'm like, where am I going? This is a fishing tournament. Like, we need you to take a polygraph right now. I'm like, a polygraph for what? My brother-in-law's like, dude, yeah, they're going to make sure you didn't cheat. I'm like, I didn't cheat. You were right there beside me. Like, what is happening right now? They take me to this small room. I'm claustrophobic. And so I was like, what if I accidentally lied? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is scary. Turns out you're supposed to take this test over like a 45-minute period. It took me 8. They said, yeah, you're not lying. I said, yeah, because I don't even fish. Do you know what I mean? So I go out. The next morning, it's miserable. It's cold. It's raining. I'm like, I just want to go home, okay? I'm just like trying to let you into my head as I'm in first place for this whole tournament, LOL, right? I go all the way home. I pick up my wife and my kids. We make it home. My father-in-law calls me, and he's like, hey, are you fishing tomorrow? Bro, I'm not fishing tomorrow at all. I'm going to work. He's like, my father-in-law, he's like really country and really cool because they can exist. Not all the time, but they can. And he fishes on the MLF circuit. It's like, the dude's a dog. And he calls me, he's like, hey, why'd you leave? And I'm like, because I'm going home. Like, I don't fish. I wear like camo to be cool or try to be cool. I wear Yeezys. Don't mean like that. I don't do this. And he's like, you need to get in your car and you need to go back. And I'm like, why? He's like, because I think you're going to win the boat. This is where it kind of sunk in this moment. And I find myself having to go back to Smith Mountain Lake, which is like a 5-hour drive. I have to take a day off of work. And I'm telling you, the whole time I'm expecting not to win this boat, okay? I get down there, I find myself in a hilarious outfit because my bottom half didn't match the fishing shirt that I had to have in my fishing hat, right? Because they made me wear them for sponsorships. And I'm hoisting up a Bass Pro fishing trophy that's bigger than me up there, and these old guys are like, guys, I literally won the whole tournament and won a boat. And the last time I fished was like 3 years ago. Yeah. And it began to make me think, like, why do I love to fish? Because, like, randomly, and if you get the chance to meet my wife, she'll tell you, like, randomly, I will get these urges to go fish. And I began to process that, and a lot of my core memories in my life are linked to fishing, okay? And it's kind of, like, weird, but growing up, I grew up in what I used to call LA until people told me that was actually Los Angeles and not Lower Alabama, because my family told me that LA was Lower Alabama. We were so country, I believed it, okay? I didn't know that the city of angels was real, all right? And so every summer, I spent about a month with my grandpa and my grandma in Alabama. I thought it was because they wanted to see me. It was actually because my parents wanted, you know what I mean, a vacation for a month, whatever, it's okay. I'm working through it. And my grandpa, he had a barbershop and a flea market. Okay? I don't know if you've ever been to a flea market, but it's worse than you think. This one was, okay? And I would get up at 5 in the morning every day with him to go to work. I don't know what I did. I was like 10. Do you know what I mean? I didn't work. Sweeped up the floor. Didn't mean maybe. Drank Yoo-Hoos. Those are probably outlawed by now, but you know what I mean? It was Lower Alabama. It was LA, right? I did all of it every day just to get like 30 to 45 minutes with him fishing after work. And the biblical wisdom that he would deposit in me, right? The encouragement, the dreaming, the laughing, and honestly, the time spent near someone who spent so much intentional time with me makes me randomly want to go fishing because I'm looking for what I had in those core memories. They were really good. But one time, I had a memory with fishing that's not great, okay? Again, like me being on a boat and on water is not something that I desire a lot, okay? And I do enjoy fishing with my father-in-law, though, sometimes because I get new gear, okay? And I don't have to pay for it. Because if you've ever been to Bass Pro Shops, everything is so expensive, okay? And so he loads it up every time. He teaches me actually how to fish, and I enjoy it. Well, one weekend, we're there visiting, and I asked him if we could go fishing, and we're out on the water, and honestly, we're having a good time. Like, we're catching a lot of fish, and I'm like, this is cool. And out the corner of my eye, I see some clouds, you know what I mean, that weren't matching the whole sun's out, blue skies, and I'm like, hey, yo, you see that? My father's like, hey, we're all right, you know what I mean? Like, just, you know, at the front of the boat, continuing to fish, and I'm like, are you sure? Because I'm just a guy with like nervous energy. As you can tell, I haven't stopped moving since I got up here. And I'm like, I want to go home if it starts raining. I don't love this that much, right? Like, I enjoy hanging out with y'all, but rain and fishing, no, I'm good. And he's like, oh, it'll go around us. You know what I mean? Like, every country guy is so optimistic when they're doing the two things that they love to do, which is hunting and fishing, right? And and so I'm like, okay, we'll just keep fishing. I keep fishing. We're having a great time. All of a sudden, there's a torrential downpour. He's like, oh, I guess it didn't go around us. I'm like, great, right? You know what I mean? He's like, guys, we're pretty far from the boat ramp. I'm like, yeah, I know. I wanted to go home an hour ago, all right? He's like, put on your life jackets, and I need y'all to hang on. Okay, again, I'm a guy with nervous energy. I was already repenting for everything I didn't do that I told God I would do at the altar the last week. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, God, please save me. I know you've saved me, but like, save me. Please get me home. I want to be with my wife. I want to be with my daughter. And we start going. And his bass boat is one of those that go like 70 miles an hour. I don't know why. They just love going fast on water. And it was terrifying me. I don't know if you've ever been paintballing, but the rain was hurting so bad it felt like I was getting shot by paintballs. And I'm like, why am I here again? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even like to be outside, right? And my brother-in-law, I'm like praying in tongues to this point. My brother-in-law is not saved. My father-in-law is saved-ish. I don't know. And he has no emotion on his face. He's like Stone Cold Steve Austin, okay? My father-in-law turns his hat around, and he's like, yee-haw! And he makes the boat go faster, okay? We get just outside of the storm, all right? He stops the boat. I take off my life jacket. I'm walking to the front of the boat to jump off the boat because I thought the point was to get to shore. He says, whoa, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to shore. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to be there. What are you doing? He's like, oh, I just wanted to get to the other side of the storm because I'm going to do what we were doing before. And he picks up his fishing pole and he begins to go fishing. I found myself in survival mode because I was in something that was uncomfortable. My father-in-law said, I've seen this so many times. I just want to get to another fishing spot where I know it's not raining. And I know some of us in this room, maybe we'll admit it, maybe we won't. We're in survival mode, and we don't remember who's the captain of our ship that's turning his hat backwards, saying yeehaw in the worst time of your life, because his goal isn't to get you to survive. His goal is to get you to the other side where he declared when he told you to get in the boat in the first place. And so as I was writing this today, I thought about 3 areas that we can find ourselves in torment, just like the disciples did. The first torment is internal. Point number 1. Somebody say, the torment is internal. We got to do better than that. The torment is internal. There we go. If you go to the part of the text where it says that the disciples were struggling, I wanted to be a preacher for a minute and see what the original Greek word for that was, okay? And it was torment, all right? And so I tried to put myself in their shoes, and I got a glimpse of disciples who were mostly fishermen, okay, on a body of water that a storm was so bad, they were rowing and they weren't going anywhere. And I found myself in life before where I've been rowing and rowing and rowing, and I haven't made it anywhere. And as I was sitting in this text, I was reminded of times where I was blaming the devil for tormenting me. And God said, hey, buddy, it's because you won't stop rowing. We add so much torment to our life because we put on a Messiah complex. We have main character syndrome. We believe life is all about us. Every waking moment, it's about me, myself, and I. And when we're in the middle of a storm, our arms are heavy. Palms are okay. We are going to the other side, right? And we are exhausted and we are angry and we are, God, where are you? God, are you for me? God, are you who you said you are? And he's like, I just want you to stop rowing because you're not the one in charge of your life. I am. And when I think about this, and I think about you guys that are really settling in to your life and who you feel God is calling you to become, and you're chasing after that, you have to be careful of being around people that constantly critique your row. Because the world is never gonna tell you to stop rowing and focus on God. They're gonna only give you advice on how to row better, row harder, right? Have more faith, believe harder, all of those Christianese things we can even say at times. If you find yourself around people that are only critiquing your row, you're just going to row harder. And you're going to live with internal torment, thinking that the devil is so hard after your life. And it's you. These are people that were in the closest proximity to Jesus that you could get, that were tormenting themselves because they forgot that the one that's on the mountain praying, looking over them, will be the one that is walking across the water in just a few seconds. Some of you guys are having an internal battle with who God's calling you to be, what the world's asking you to be, who God's calling you to be, and your boyfriend or girlfriend is asking you to be, or your fiance. Some of you guys have such a tight grip on your life, and God said, if you would just let go of the oar, I would show you how much I move inside of a storm. Psalms 23, he prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Why? Because he's never been afraid of anything that will come against you. He actually wants you to dine with him in the darkest moments of your life. Why? So you can be reminded of the destiny that you have, not the death that you feel. He wants to show up in your life in the storms. You want him to show up on the shore. We don't want waves. We don't want wind. We don't want anxiety. We don't want depression. We don't want control issues. We don't want daddy issues, but yet we have them. And we will not talk to somebody other than a paid professional. That stuff is awesome. I'm in it. But there's something about a godly friend, a godly mentor that you get around and say, I am internally tormented so bad, I don't know what to do. But yet I know who my God is. Can you encourage and lift my spirit right now? Because I don't know if I'm gonna get to the shore, but I believe I might. Sometimes your torment is internal. I think about the verse Deuteronomy 20, verse 4. For the Lord your God is going with you. He will fight for you against your enemies, and he will give you victory. Why do we live our life from a place of defeat when we know the end of the story? We're just on a journey of victory, and yet all around us, all we see is defeat. Why? Because we live internally. And our torment is internal. Guys, he's already won. I know you've heard this before, but you need to be reminded because storms are real. Wind is real. Waves are real. But God is with you. He is for you, and he will win. He will win. I don't know what you're struggling with, but I know that God will win. Number 2, your torment is external. I'm gonna dance around this one a little bit. Your torment is external. Some of us, we love to blame everything on what's coming against me. I just got so much warfare coming. Yeah, sometimes you do, okay? But sometimes there's just winds and waves after you've been obedient. Let's go back to the beginning of the text. Verse 45, immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and head across the lake to Bethesda. Is insisted an offer? Is insisted something that they might be able to do? Is that like a vibe check? Like, do you guys want to go to the other side of the lake? No, I insist that you get in this boat and you go to the other side. So the disciples were obedient and found themselves in a storm. We have got to stop giving the devil so much credit. He is a weak, frail, defeated being. He is not Alpha and Omega. He is not reigner and ruler of all things supreme. He is not God. He is someone that can only say things, right, that you've spoken about yourself or that somebody's spoken about yourself, or the things that you begin to believe that you've internalized. He's not that powerful. It's just the winds and the waves. The weather be crazy. People are on the golf course recently and a tornado randomly comes through. That's just a storm. It ain't the devil. But yet we in church, we're like, man, you know, the devil's just really fighting hard for my life. No. The meteorologist predicted it like a week ago. As you climb the mountain of life, storms happen. And what I love about this is in James 1:2-4, it says, dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. It's like you got to choose joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. You know what annoys me about me? Is I ask God to develop me and then get mad at him when he tries. Because I want him to develop me on the shore, not in the middle of a boat where I'm fighting with oars, right? Do you know what I mean? Screaming out because all I see is winds and waves. And God says, if you would just understand that your endurance is supposed to grow, your faith is supposed to be tested, so you lack nothing. Christians who haven't been through anything want everything but have nothing. Christians who have been through something need nothing because they have everything, and that everything is Jesus. That's why we should choose joy when we're tested. Do you know how you're maturing in faith? The next times winds and waves come, you throw up your hands and you begin to worship, saying, God, I know you did it to me before. You're going to do it again. God, you've never failed me, so why would you start now? Worthy is your name. I'm not going to glorify this storm. I'm going to glorify you, God. The length and the pace of your worship shows your maturity. When you're believing that God has abandoned you, God's not for me. I don't know, I'm in a weird season. No, you're not. You're in a season where you're not worshiping. You're not in a weird season. You just haven't opened your mouth. You haven't declared until something broke. Paul and Silas declared until something broke. You want chains to break? You want prison doors to open? Worship until they do. Not just a couple times a month at 9:30. Do it in your car at 9:30 a.m. Do it at night when the internal or the external torment raises the roof. Find yourself on your knees and say, God, your word says you are this. Right now I feel like you are this. Close the gap. Who closed the gap in the prodigal son story? The father, not the son. If you think you have to close the gap, you're believing a lie from this world or from the devil. You do not have to work for his grace. You do not have to work for his love. You do not even have to work for his favor. He freely gives it. And when he sees you begin to walk back home, he breaks all cultural norms, embraces you, and restores the intimacy that was lost when you left. I'm telling you, the storms are testing. The other thing is, sometimes we believe that our storm is just getting by Jesus. Do you know what I mean? Like, you ever been on hold at like a customer service telephone number for like way too long that you just hang up? Yeah, that's what we feel like with Jesus. Like, he's just not answering my phone right now. Like, maybe his eyes are not on me. Maybe his hand has departed from me, right? I want to encourage you that if the devil can get you to believe that his eyes have shifted from you, right, then you find yourself in a place where all dependency is back on you. The devil doesn't even need to get you to depend on him. He just needs to get you to depend on you. But I want to encourage you that his eyes have never and will never shift from you, because you're the reason that he sent his son to die on a cross and walk out of a grave for you. It will always be for you, but about him. For you, but about him. Your storm is not getting past Jesus. Somebody needs to hear this. You are going to make it to the other side. Why? Because he said it at the beginning of the text. He said, you're going to go to the other side of the lake of Bethesda. You're not going to die in the middle. You're going to make it to the other side. You're going to make it to the other side of your torment tonight. But the third point is your torment is spiritual. Somebody say, my torment is spiritual. My pastor taught me this recently. 2 chapters previous in Mark 4, the same people that spend so much time and have so much proximity to Jesus found themselves in another storm. Jesus was on the boat. Homie was trying to catch a nice 20-piece. Just nap for a bit. He's been doing ministry. I'm tired. And the disciples are literally freaking. Now remember, these are fishermen. So if they're afraid, we should all be afraid. Their life was on the water, and if they feel like they're going to die on the water, we know it's bad. They wake up Jesus. Oh, ye of little faith. He's so gangster. I love it. He's got so much swagger. And then he's like, silence, be still. And guess what happened? The winds and the waves calmed. Then they get to the other side. And guess what happens? Jesus heals a demon-possessed man. A pastor taught me recently that the winds were a literal deterrent from Satan. He did not want Jesus to cross to the other side. Why? Because he knew he would lose again. Sometimes the things you are going through are actually deterrence from Satan, because he knows when you get to the other side, it will not be a moment for you to glorify yourself, but God is going to use you for somebody that needs you. They need what God has done on the inside of you. I was taking stuff to Goodwill recently. I love Goodwill. You just drop that junk off. I don't like going in there, bro. It just doesn't smell great, but whatever. It's okay. I like dropping stuff off because then it's not mine anymore. It's their problem, right? I can get in my car and I can go home. And I was on the way home after my final trip to Goodwill. That's how much junk we had. Yeah, thank God for decluttering. And God was like, you know, you've been asking me to do this in your life a lot lately. And I'm like, what? He's like, you've been asking to just drop things off. But you're not asking me to do the purpose of Goodwill, which is to repurpose what you've dropped off. God wants to repurpose the pain that you've gone through in your life. God wants to repurpose the things that you've laid down that he's turned into gifts. Why? Because people need the healed version of you. People need the gifted, anointed, called, and chosen version of you. Don't just drop off your pain and say, God, take it away. Be bold enough to say, God, repurpose it for whoever needs it in this life. Because I'm so much better because of what you've done in and through me. I want to encourage you today, though, that whether it's internal, external, or spiritual, your torment is his floor. Okay, we're going to sit in this for a minute. Your torment is his floor. Let's talk about water for a second. In Genesis, it says that the Holy Spirit hovered above the waters. It also says that they split the waters from the heavens and the earth. Moses used the staff to split the waters. God used water to restore the land through Noah. So you think Jesus was afraid of a tool that God's been using since the beginning of time? You think your torment makes Jesus afraid? Get this. If you go back to the text, it says he walked on the water. What does that mean? He was relaxed the entire time. I just have to imagine that as he walked on the water, the waves that were choppy, when Jesus got close, they submitted and became calm. Because you can't walk on rough waters. He's not surfing and flipping on waves, having a joyride. He's walking across what we're afraid of. Why? Because everything that comes against us is under his feet. Here's the crazy thing about water. It reflects. And in Proverbs 27:19, it says, as water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart. Y'all, I know. Some of y'all are like, man, why am I here right now? Why am I listening to this guy? You know what I mean? I don't even know if I like him. But we've believed what the torment has reflected back to us for too long. That you're not really worthy of God's love. That you're not even really worthy of a human's love. That you're never going to become what you set out to become when you were a child. But then, I go to this verse. John 7:38. Anyone who believes in me may come and drink, for the scriptures declare rivers of living water will flow from his heart. If you're seeing a reflection of what's tormenting you, the water saw a reflection of what's tormenting it. Everything Jesus comes in contact with that's coming against his people has to submit when he walks into the room. The moment he sat down, the winds stopped. Because every single thing is under the living water. And yet we let every internal, external, and spiritual battle almost take us out. And we forget who's walked by our boat and stepped in that made the winds obey and the waves obey. Yet we can't. They're not even a living thing and they submit when he walks into the room. Yet we're an alive entity that he created and we just wrestle and battle. And every single thing that gets in close proximity to him submits so that he can show you everything that comes against you is his floor. So where you think you're finished, he starts. Where you think you're not gonna make it, that's where he begins. I don't know what's tormenting you. I don't know if it's internal. I don't know if it's mental. I can transparently tell you, I have had a battle with mental health the last 5 years that has put me on the floor more times than I'd like to admit. I've gone preaching places and have barely been able to get off the floor. Why? Because I'm tormented internally. I forget who's in my boat. I forget who's walking past me. I forget who's walking with me. I forget who's prepared a table before me. And I believe that the torment is all I can see and all I can feel. Your storm is not that strong. Your storm cannot take you out unless you let it. I don't know if you're the problem. I don't know if the winds are the problem. I don't know if the devil's the problem. But I know if we all self-analyzed, we have a problem. And it's that we can't truly submit to the one who makes everything submit. At the mention of his name, every tongue will confess and every knee will bow. He's the power. It's always been about Jesus. It will always be about Jesus. And yet he makes it about him through you. He's so generous. He says, I want your life. I want your best days. I'm not afraid of your worst days. I'm not afraid of the darkest question that you have about me. I have an answer, you just haven't asked. It's not as vanilla as we make it out, everyone in the Bible is just like us. Jeremiah, one chapter, I will glorify you. I'm your spokesperson. Use me. The next one, God, why am I alive? Elijah, God uses him in incredible ways. He finds himself in a cave. God, take my life. David can't keep his eyes off of something that's not his. Guys, these are people that were anointed, called, and chosen, and destined. The Bible is not about these people that were on a pedestal. It's people like me and you that God says, I'm gonna use you in spite of you. I'm gonna move in spite of you. I'm gonna encounter you in spite of you.